Hi everyone, I'm Jess and you're watching Discern with Jim Denison. Today is Monday, December 6th. Hi Jim.
Hi Jess, how are you today?
I am doing well, Jim. Thank you for asking. Today, we are going to be talking about Mark Cuban, who recently bought his own city, which is wild. So this is from Yahoo News. Mark Cuban, the entrepreneur, Dallas Mavericks owner, cryptocurrency enthusiast, reality TV star, would-be politician, and social media provocateur, has purchased the entire town of Mustang, Texas for an undisclosed amount. Mustang, Texas, population 23, has been for sale since 2017, originally with an asking price of $4 million. It eventually dropped to $2 million, but still couldn't find a buyer. Cuban, according to deed records, bought it via a company he controls and tells the Dallas Morning News, "I don't know what, if anything, I will do with it." So that is pretty crazy that he bought his own town. I can't fathom buying my own town. Why do you think stories that involve, money and wealth like Mark Cuban's are so attractive to us?
Well, they obviously are, or they wouldn't make the news, right? Because the news business is a business, and they are very good at knowing what we're going to want to read or hear or click through, and therefore know what ought to be in the news in that context. And so they're right. Yet again, here we are having this conversation about a town of 23, right? Because it's Mark Cuban and because of the uniqueness of who he is in the culture and kind of the audacity on some level of doing this. But I think in Western culture and Western history, it hasn't always been this way. For most of our history, I would say, there hasn't been means like this, except for a very small percentage of people, very small percent in Jesus' day, it'd be less than 0.5%, that would be the elites, that would be the Roman rulers and so forth, that would own the land, that would have the means to do something like this. For a typical person, it wouldn't even be something you could consider. And so it's really only been in recent generations that we've seen enough wealth be possible for something like this to be done. And so we watch these stories, whether it's somebody buying a town or somebody buying a $2 million car or somebody purchasing a seat on a space flight up into the atmosphere or some such as this, multi-million-dollar jewelry, those sorts of things. I think on two levels. On one piece of it, it's just fascinating to us because they don't live the way we do. And we're interested in people that live so differently than we do. I could never do that, but I'm interested in people that can. But the companion piece to that is I'm kind of vicariously living through them. I may never be able to buy a town, but it's kind of interesting to watch somebody do it. I kind of feel it as they are. I get a sense of accomplishment in learning about their accomplishment. I get a sense of value in seeing their values. And there's just something about us that likes to live vicariously in places where we can't be there in reality. We're just kind of made that way as fallen humans. One last piece I would add is in our culture, we measure worth by possessions. We measure who you are by what you have, don't we? By what you do, by your appearance, by your popularity, by your possessions. And so we look at this as an emblem of success that we could seek to acquire ourselves. There's an aspirational piece to this in our culture. I may never own a town, but maybe I could someday own something that would get in the news, that would make me famous as well, that would confer some level of celebrity for me. It's all wrapped up in who we are living in this culture at this point in time.
Well, I so agree with you on it is so fascinating to hear these stories and hear about these people, because I also am very fascinated with very wealthy people and specifically some reality TV shows I watch, because it's they have so much wealth and it's not something that I don't think I will ever see in my life. And I think on one hand, it doesn't seem like, it's inherently bad to have all this money, but then, just seeing how it affects your lifestyle and your choices sometimes, I think it really is fascinating, just on a psychological level for me, just learn about these people's life and their experiences and what they do with their money. But I also think on the other hand, it can lead us to, think that happiness is gained by having things or having a lot of money. So in that kind of vein, how can we strive for financial stability without seeking worldly rewards?
Yeah, the first, I think, answer to the question is to ask the question. Is to recognize those two things are not the same thing, that stability and earthly reward don't have to be the same thing. It's been demonstrated that we need a lot less than we want. And in fact, once we get to a certain place of possession, that happiness does not increase as wealth increases. And so looking for stability is the starting place, I think. We ask ourselves, and we ask the Lord to guide us in this. Lord, what lifestyle do you intend for me? What's your call on my life? What is it that I can do to live out your best life for me? What's your intended path for me? Your kingdom call for me? Where is it that you want me to serve you? And make that, first of all, my question. What's my north on the compass? And then along that line, inside that calling. Now, Lord, how would you have me seek financial stability in that context? And then be comfortable with what I have in that calling. I, for instance, to meddle just a little bit as a pastor myself, have known pastors that seemed anyway to me to seek a great deal more wealth and status than would be typically associated with their calling as a pastor, and would sometimes perhaps be a bit of a distraction to others they were seeking to minister to. I think there's a ceiling there, perhaps, within the kingdom assignment God has for you within that calling. So I'm looking for wisdom there. Lord, what does security look like in the calling you have for me? But then along with that, on a second level, I'm recognizing that security is only in Him. It's not in a bank account. It's not in status, because that could all change tomorrow. We're having this conversation in a pandemic. We're having this conversation as I'm thinking about a dear friend of mine struggling with pancreatic cancer, who thought he was healthy 6 months ago. And so ultimately, while I'm wanting to define stability within my own kingdom calling, I'm recognizing the source of that stability is in the Lord, not in myself, not in my bank account, not in my last health report, but really ultimately in Jesus. And then the third place to go quickly is to recognize that seeking worldly status through financial means is a dead end. You'll never have enough. Someone asked one of the Rockefellers, how much money is enough? And he said, just a little more. You've got a new car until 6 months later, it's not a new car anymore. You've got a new house until 6 months later, something else is out there you wish you had. There's never enough. You can never get there. You've impressed everybody with what you have today, but now you've got to impress them again tomorrow. You've been successful today, you've got to be successful tomorrow. It's never enough. At the end of the day, just we're climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. What we want to be doing is measuring success by obedience to Jesus' call in our lives, asking Him to provide that stability that is His intention for us within that kingdom assignment, and knowing that that is success. Success with God is obedience.
Jim, that was all very good. And I think, Jesus and the Bible just have a lot to say about wealth and about money, and where true life and joy is found. And so, I think conversations about money are going to be ongoing forever. And, I think people to whom much has been given, much is expected. And so, again, these stories are just very fascinating, and I think are ultimately great ways to reflect on our own wealth and what we define as having a lot of wealth or happiness. And so, just a lot of great conversation starters for sure. Thank you so much, Jim, for your time and for your thoughts. That's all we have for you guys today. We'll see you here tomorrow on Discern.